One of the really great things about this movie is it will surprise you, so I want to be very careful not to give away too much of the story because a lot of the enjoyment relies upon not knowing what will happen next. It is a very tricky, very interesting, and weird narrative. So what is occurring? Well, essentially, Natalie Portman's character plays an actress who, in the aftermath of a scandal that happened decades ago, is visiting a couple who are in the center stage of the scandal and says, "Oh, I just want to learn who you are. There's a movie that's going to be made," and she wants to get a very authentic performance and get to know them and understand from their perspective what happened. And it seems like it'll be just a very boring drama that's about 2 hours, Netflix. Feels very stereotypical. That is not what is happening. It is a much more ambitious piece. It's very funny, but the jokes are not very obvious. And again, you have to know a lot about Todd's background as an auteur independent filmmaker, as well as the indie scene and just Hollywood politics. If you know that even a little bit, you're going to notice a lot of the jokes. So I don't want to say this is totally meta. This is not just about Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, but Julianne Moore has worked with Todd Haynes on many, many films. So it's fairly obvious they're kind of poking fun at themselves, as well as poking fun at this whole image of Hollywood and the way it shows itself to the world. And I can't help but feeling it is doing a lot of real-world commentary on Natalie, because she divorced recently, she's had her own, quote, scandal. So this is very close to the lives of the actual actors. That said, the narrative onto itself is pretty interesting. Perhaps not as interesting as the meta commentary, but it's still interesting enough in terms of who are we to judge people in these scandals. We don't know everything. We only get a very small glimpse when these things happen, whether O.J. Simpson, Scientology, Tom Cruise. You go through the list. When these scandals or controversies arise, we're only getting a very skewed view of what actually happened with these people. So it does have a kind of very sympathetic atmosphere. However, there are going to be points you're going to hate the characters and even maybe perhaps the actors. It's going to be very dark and very chilling in many ways. However, overall, I thought this film was amusing enough in its good parts, but there were a few places where the acting was a little lacking. Sometimes that's intentional, like the acting is meant to be stupid or bad, but there were a few actors I thought were doing subpar performances. That's probably the only one place I thought that was a major flaw. There's also some weird ways that the camera is moving and the way things are being shown. Usually Todd's cinematography is excellent, but if you want a much more beautiful film, I'd say look at his earlier work with Carol and a few other films, including even Safe. But this feels kind of like a midway in terms of his older style. For the most part, it was good. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. However, this may disappoint people if they thought it was going to be a much more juicy or kind of X-rated treatment of these women coming together. There is, quote, a lot of adult material. I don't want to underestimate the eroticism here, but it may not go the way you think. So just be prepared to be surprised, but not too surprised.